Hello, for my oral presentation I will be talking about two films that I really liked and really enjoyed watching in this Drama 30 class. These two films are Stand and Deliver and Real Women Have Curves. For both of the films I will be talking about the social concerns, political agendas, and aesthetics. And Real Women Have Curves, one of the biggest social concerns that I thought there was how to do with the weight. And this is because in the movie overall, the movie contradicts many American films which say that thin is in, which is not true. I think. In this film, Anna is a very strong Latina that does not care or have any problems with her self-image. She is a very curvy, heavy Latina who is a role model for those who think that their looks are way more important than their inner self, which in many cases this is not true at all. Carmen, who was Anna's mother in the film, was always very mean to Anna. She was always giving her a hard time about her weight and was always calling her names and all these things that was just not okay for a mother to call their daughter. For example, Carmen would call her La Gorda, or the fat one in English. And I thought it was really funny how she did this because her herself was not thin either. She was also overweight, and I don't think she should have been calling her daughter all these things when she was overweight herself. We also have Jimmy, who was Anna's boyfriend in the film. Jimmy was not Latino at all. He was actually white, and despite that, he was always very supportive of him, and he would always tell her how beautiful she was and how he didn't care of how she looked or anything like that. For example, when Jimmy and Anna were in Jimmy's room, Anna decides to look in the mirror and glance at her undressed body, and tells Jimmy to turn on the lights and see her the way she is, so that Jimmy would see how her body really was, and so that he would not take or leave with an image that was not her, something that was not herself, and someone who she really wasn't in real life. Another scene that I really liked that showed how Anna is very happy with the way she is and how she does not care about how others see her or think of her is when she is in the dress factory with her mother and her sister and the rest of the women that work there. That day it was really hot and it was really sweaty, and at that point Anna couldn't take it anymore, and she decides to take off her blouse, and right away Carmen, her mother, yells at her and tells her, "What are you doing? You are way too fat to be doing that kind of stuff, and that you should be ashamed of even thinking about doing it." But Anna doesn't really care because she is very comfortable with the way she is, and she's comfortable with her own skin. And she does not let Carmen's ideas or comments get to her, and she even gets the rest of the women to strip down to their panties as well. And I thought this was a very important scene in the film. Anna embodies young Latina faces on a daily basis and shows how she has to deal with society's unfair measures of beauty. For Stand and Deliver, the social concern that I chose to talk about is about how society sees minority Latinos as weak and not capable of being someone in life. From the beginning of the film, we saw how the students didn't really like school and how they just went to school just for the heck of it. But once Mr. Escalante, their teacher, comes in the picture and starts to be the teacher and teach them calculus, everything changes at that point for them. At that point, the students started to see how they could be someone in life and how they didn't have to be what society saw them as being. Society saw them as students who would most likely not finish school and probably make bad choices that would, in the long run, ruin their lives one way or the other. but the students were very determined to learn as much in their calculus class, and even pass the calculus exam that they would take at the end of their senior year. They worked very hard and didn't let anyone tell them what they couldn't do. They wanted a better life for themselves, so they studied and studied until they got the result they wanted. But since all the students passed the exam, the education board believed that the students had cheated on the test, and this is where the political agenda comes in, because of Mr. Escalante believing in his students and him knowing that they did not cheat. He fought for his students, and the students ended up taking the exam one more time. And because of the students retaking this exam, it allowed the students and Mr. Escalante prove to the school board that not just because students are from a minority background means that they are dumb and not knowledgeable like the rest of the kids, like the white students that there was at that time. Mr. Escalante always pushed the students to try their hardest and never give up on education, because he knew how important education is for students and for everyone, and how education opens up the doors for them to do whatever they decide to do in their life. The political agenda for Real Women Have Curves has to do with Mr. Guzman, who was Anna's teacher, who was similar to Mr. Escalante. Mr. Guzman is aware of Anna's interest in education. He knows how talented and smart she is. At first he doesn't understand why Anna decides to not apply for college and not attend college at all in her life, but then he realizes that it was not her fault. How it is her family's fault for her not trying to go to college or even thinking about going to school. But Mr. Guzman really pushed Anna to apply for college and let her know how important education was and how she should apply for college. And he even went to her house to let her family know how important it was, and try to convince them to let her go to college and for her to follow her dream of being someone in life and getting education for her own self. Because of Mr. Guzman, Anna gets the confidence in herself and decides to leave her family and follow her dream of going to college. Now, in both of the films, for the aesthetics, they are very similar. In both of the films, we see that the students and their families are very close to each other. Mainly, I see this because they all live together in one house. Now, in Anna's family, it is shaped up of parents, brothers, sisters, cousins, and even a grandfather. And in most of the families in Stand and Deliver, we saw families of 5 or more people in one house. We can tell that in Stand and Deliver, the students are very close to each other because for example, one of the students, he was always there for the grandma and was always there for supporting the family. He even almost got kicked out of the class because he had to be with his grandma when she was really sick, and he had to take her to the hospital. And also the girl with having had to drop out of school so she could help out the family with their business, with the family restaurant. But at the end, she ended up going back to school. Now, in Real Women Have Curves, we see how Anna is obligated to not go to college and stay behind with her family to help out at her sister's dress factory. But again, as well, she is able to leave her home and go to New York and pursue that college life. In both the films, if the students did not care, support, or were not close to the families, then they wouldn't have done what they did for them. Both of the films were great, and they taught me a lot about the Latino culture and how things are. And with that, I conclude this oral presentation, and thank you for viewing and listening.